Theo Vaughn, a physics-bending, boredom-ending, omnipresent comedian in our modern digital world. I've been seeing him everywhere. I've seen him on TikTok, I've seen him on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, all throughout the podcast world. And this video is going to be a bit different than a lot of Theo Vaughn videos because we're going to try and answer the question, what makes Theo Vaughn a good communicator?
Big Tiffany's in the distance and she's stunting like my daddy.
We're going to start from his very first MTV break that he had and go all the way up to a podcast that he published 3 days ago. Our goal is to look at specific strategies, techniques, or nuances and see what we could learn ourselves from studying Theo Vaughn. The goal with this video is to look at an individual over a period of time. The past few videos, I've been looking at just an event and seeing how people communicated in that event. For instance, Tucker Carlson talking with Vladimir Putin. So our goal with this new line is to take one person over decades and say, okay, here are the trends and here are the repeating patterns. And with Theo Vaughn, we have to hit the low-hanging fruit before anything else, and that is he is funny. For instance, there are so many different clips on the internet. If you type in Theo Vaughn, make people laugh, all of these compilations of up to 30 minutes long of him going through and making people almost cry, laugh, eyes closed, head back. Here's Theo Vaughn making Joe Rogan laugh.
How much more would you get to know about somebody if you held their hand?
Not much more.
You don't think?
I mean, would you? Would you get to know more?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Is there some like older tradition where like if you're walking with your brother and you're holding your brother's hand,
right? Like you ever have a buddy who's going through a hard time, you give him a hug, he starts crying, and then you hug him harder. You know,
I'm that buddy. Yeah,
yeah, that's you, bro. I just didn't want to bring your name up.
Oh, yeah, totally right. Oh, I'm on the emo all-star team, baby.
He says, I'm on the emo all-star team. So he is obviously incredibly funny. That is why he has a successful career as a stand-up comic. And regarding the social situation, humor is one of the most intelligent ways to connect with those around you. It is often seen as a cheat code. If you can get people to laugh, you can get them to smile. If you can get people to laugh, you can get them to relax. If you get people to relax, it's better to connect with them. But Theo's social acumen and competency isn't just limited at making people laugh. One thing that I see regularly whenever I watch Theo Vaughn, and I'm sure that if you've ever listened to a podcast of his or even seen the stand-up special, is he deviates from the social script. The social script is something that we all adhere to. Maybe we don't even think about it, but whenever we walk into a social situation, we have these moments where, like small talk, for instance, is typically a big part of the social script. And small talk is there to break up the unknown between the two of us. So if you see another person, you use some small talk and it goes in there. It saves us from being right next to each other and not acknowledging one another because that can get pretty awkward. But think of the stereotypical small talk. Hey, how are you? Good. And then it's over. Or, man, this weather. Like little comments like that, because no matter where you live, there's going to be a weather, there's going to be a climate. You may be tired or it may be early. You can say good morning. A lot of different things. This is the social script. But Theo, one of the best qualities about him is he knows how to deviate from the social script. And let's look at a couple instances. So one of my favorite moments where he does this is Nikki Glaser was on his podcast. And he says this about a ferret.
Man, you know.
Have you always liked rats? Rats are great. I would want to get one as a pet, but they die very soon.
Well, I had to share a room one night with two, not rats, it's like the Limousine of rats. Ferret.
Oh.
And I had to share a room one night with two of those.
No! Wait, has he said that before?
I haven't heard it.
Oh, I'll tell you this story, dude.
Wait, have you said limousine of rat before?
You know, ferrets urinate on each other's backs.
You are truly.
No, you are my.
You know that.
Essay. I'm just gonna say essay. I'm not gonna say.
You are so funny, and I can't let the limousine of rats, a ferret, go.
If that's the funniest thing we've said on this episode, then we are not doing well.
What, are you kidding me?
I think you look great.
No, I think that is the funniest thing, and I'm fine saying that's the funniest thing I've ever been a part of ever.
Oh, man.
That's so funny.
Dude, remember epilepsy? Remember how big that was? I remember.
Okay, that face says it all. It's like, what are you doing? The deviation from the normal script of talking about saying something funny. And by the way, Limousine of Rats, it goes with another thing that Theo Von is so incredibly good at, and that is his lexicon, or the things he thinks of are way different than the stuff that we typically think of. For instance, our lexicon is think about it as like the backpack of words that we use in a conversation. And different people have different words in their backpack, right? If you grew up in the South, you're going to have different words compared to if you grew up in the Northeast or if you grew up on the West Coast. But our lexicon is typically broken into two different parts. We have the surface lexicon. These are, I forget how many words it is. Joseph Sarr makes a lot of good content about it. These are the words that we use pretty routinely. And then we have our deep lexicon. And the deep lexicon are words that we know. It's why you can go and read a chemistry book, or you can read a fictional book that was written somewhere else from where you grew up and still understand it, yet you're not using those words in an everyday conversation. Theo's, I don't know what it is. There's a potential that, I think it may be like this. His surface lexicon is just way deeper than the average person because he can pull out different terms, and he also strings these terms together in an unconventional way that we wouldn't expect. Or he may just have different words in his surface lexicon that we typically have in our deep lexicon. But I'm of the belief that he just has a bigger surface lexicon. I know a lot of comedians typically are very good at improvisational humor, so they can pull things out that a lot of us can't. But it makes Theo Von quite unique. He has a ton of good one-liners. Let's look at some of his one-liners.
I remember at one point, all the furniture in the world moved across the globe into one little half bathroom on the edge of Zaire. That's what I just remember that happened in a matter of a couple seconds. Big Tiffany's in the distance, and she's stunting like my daddy. Anything could happen when you're day drinking.
I gotta stop it there. He is definitely hilarious, and being creative, being able to bring things up that the average person wouldn't be able to bring up is a really good social trick because it breaks us out of the ordinary. And when we're broken out of the ordinary, then we're really given pause and it makes us think. And that's typically when you get to the deeper connection and the deeper conversations. It's something that I've consistently noticed with Theo is whenever he's having conversations with people, he will do this thing. It helps him listen, but he does this thing. I'm going to show you a few different instances where he does this thing.
Big time. It's just so relaxing. Yeah, I was thinking about that, like, I wasn't thinking about anything really, I guess. But what else is going on, you think?
I mean, I gotta do enough.
Let me show you a couple different instances in this same podcast.
If she just kept reading her book, you know?
Yeah,
In the little box, in the cage or whatever. Not people know what I'm talking about. What else is going on?
bocce ball.
Yeah, bocce ball. 10 facts about bocce.
Okay, he says, what else is going on? And he says, kind of looks to the side, waits for his guest to step in.
What else can we talk about? Was there anything else in there?
What are you doing after this? Chilling for a bit? Lunch?
What am I going to do?
So for those who don't know Nick Kyrgios, he's a world-class tennis player. He's able to survive in this setting where Theo gives up an opening and it creates a space for the guests to step up. And this can be really helpful because oftentimes in conversation, especially whenever we have the burden of, we feel like we're leading the conversation. So if you're hosting a podcast, the burden's on you. If the podcast doesn't go well, it's up to you to salvage it. But he does something that's very rare that a lot of podcast hosts don't do, is he admits to not really knowing what he's going to say.
I don't know what I'm talking about, and I never have. I never really have. And you guys have always been supportive of me for that, or while I've done that. And thank you so much.
And I know we all have moments where we don't remember what to say, or we feel like we're speechless, or we don't know what to say in the moment. Yet Theo does this intentionally. I don't think that this is an accident. For instance, if you watch his stand-up, for those of you who know the art of stand-up comedy is they have a bit and they practice these bits over and over again. So if you have an hour-long set or a 10-minute long set or a 30-minute long set, you know from sentence to sentence how you're going to transition, you know how much time to let sit, you know when to go loud and when to go quiet and when to go slow and when to go fast. It's a planned art. So whenever we see Theo's stand-up...
Sorry. Good evening. I'm happy to be here tonight, so I'll say it. I will say it.
Okay, so he uses it as part of his bit. He shows up and he's like, using these filler words that typically communicate social anxiety. They communicate someone is in, below, or in, over their head. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what to do. But Theo waits for someone to say, just say it. And then he uses that as the start of his bit. So in the podcast, he does this as well. He'll say, what should I say? I don't know what to say. And it creates a pause so that either the listener or the guest can step in to almost save Theo and keep the conversation going. And also it just creates relatability. Like, we've all been there. So most people hide the fact that they don't know what to say, but Theo is very open about it. Real quick, if you like communication content, I'd love for you to subscribe. We're at the beginning of the communication profile series. So on this channel, you can expect looking at different individuals and then looking at specific events. So if there's a big conversation, a big interview, a big speech, I'm going to be doing an analysis over all of these events. I'd love for you to join. And without further ado, let's get back to Theo Von. Whenever I was looking Theo up, I found this clip that's almost 7 years old now, where he's sitting down talking to a camera and a microphone about how he used to be incredibly, debilitatingly nervous when talking to women.
I remember when I was young, I could not talk to girls. I just felt embarrassed. I couldn't talk to girls that I liked. That was the toughest part. I was just afraid. You know, I just had this thing built in my head that they hated me or that they just did not like me. And I remember one time, this girl I was just in love with as a child, I remember that I spit in her hair because I was so pent up with wanting to just tell her that I liked her maybe or something that I couldn't.
Vulnerability. The superpower of vulnerability is that it exposes, when we're being vulnerable, we take off our armor, which the downside is the more vulnerable we are, the more weaponry we give others. But the plus side is that there's a lot more area for us to connect with others. He does this so often. If you look up Theo Von and you look up vulnerability, you will find video after video after video of him just sitting down and being real with his guests or being real with the camera or his listeners calling in and him being upfront and honest with them.
You know, I'm not perfect enough. I'm not good enough. You know, I'm not good enough for my mother to see me. I'm not good enough for my father to stay alive. I had this epiphany not long ago that I thought that if I was better, if I was perfect, if I did everything right as a kid, I thought this. I didn't know until just recently that I thought it, but it came up. That if I did everything right, that my father would stay alive.
And that face says it all. Just him acknowledging that thought that lived in his head and sharing it with others and being like, yeah, can you believe that? I thought that. And Theo imbues this with his content. I've heard a lot of people talk about Theo Von. They all say how funny he is. But to be able to have the range of being a jester and being someone who's goofy and will make you laugh to being able to reflect on how you feel. And there may be people who are in that same spot as Theo. I know the sobriety community really calls Theo because he gives them a lot of inspiration of like, hey, I've been a year sober. And Theo can relate with that and connect with that. So this transparency is something that sets him apart because relationally, and whenever you're talking with those around you, if you're transparent and if you're vulnerable, you're going to be able to better connect with those people. And he has so many different clips like this. For instance, here he is talking to a listener about making a change in his life.
Not get to choose. My brain can feel a certain way, but it's not going to choose how I behave all the time. I just can't let it do it anymore. I'm going to have setbacks, I know. But if I'm feeling bad, that doesn't mean I'm doing bad. That doesn't mean I am bad. That doesn't mean that I can't still take some action. Because, yeah, nothing changes if nothing changes, man.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Whether it's his creativity or his transparency, his vulnerability, his ability to listen, or to communicate that he doesn't really know what to say. And we haven't even mentioned his storytelling. I found so many videos, like 33 minutes of Theo Von stories.
Dude, I remember being in school and statistics or something, and it was freshman year in college, and the teacher's like, statistically speaking, there was 1,400 kids in the class. He'd be like, 2 of you guys will die in car accidents. 1 of you guys will be a registered sex offender.
She was right, wasn't she?
No, I remember standing up and going, not it. That's what I said.
Not it. I'm just going to skip to a random part to see what story pops up.
That dude is the champ. That's my first thought.
That's a champ right there.
No doubt that man's
That's a champ right there.
You know, when I was growing up, we'd go out there to the CWRs, out there to the Civil War reenactments. And we'd get out there and somebody's daddy would be in it, you know. And
He always says, I remember when, or back in the day, or there's this guy that I knew growing up. He sets up stories in a very similar way, but he makes people laugh. And there's no need to fix what isn't broken. So storytelling, humor, transparency, vulnerability, and there's a ton that I've missed, but I wanted to show you quickly before we left a video I found of Theo Von it's 4 years ago when it was published, but I'm pretty sure he was at Louisiana State during this, so he would be like 19.
In the hell is Theo. That's what I think people think of me when they first talk to me, get to know me. They don't really understand me. Because, I mean, a lot of times I don't even understand myself, you know. I'm surprised as other people are at some of the things that come into my head or some of the things that I think about. Why do you do it?
So he says, I'm surprised at myself. And he said, I think a lot of people don't really understand me. So from the jump, self-awareness was something that he voiced. And it doesn't look like he gave that up. Rather, he just got better at it. If you enjoyed this video, then you're in luck because we're at the start of the communication profile series. So I'm going to be looking at Joe Rogan, Theo Von, Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama, all of these different people to answer the questions, what are the trends? What are the communication techniques? What are the nuances that we can listen to but also learn from? In addition, if you like this content, I have a whole bunch more of it on my Patreon community. I put a link below, but I have exclusive content there, ad-free versions of all of my content. I have a personal podcast where I post the video version there, and then I also do Q&As. So I'll put the link in the description below. Comment if you think I missed something about Theo, if there's something that stands out, because I know I missed a lot. I can only fit so much in this video, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. And without further ado, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.